What's up, gamers? Scooby here, coming at you with a look at the mid-chapter PTB 7.7.0. Now, I don't usually pay much attention to these mid-chapter updates unless they're real impactful, and to be honest, I was also going to let this one go uncovered. However, there seemed to be a little bit more than meets the eye with this update, and I'll admit that I was pretty curious as to the changes we can expect to see. So, without further ado, let's dive into some of these changes that are coming in this next mid-chapter update. First off, the in-game store is getting a huge overhaul, and while it looks a little daunting at first, because it's not what we're used to seeing, I tend to think this overhaul is a fantastic change. Let's take a quick look at it. Upon hitting the Store tab in the menu screen, you'll now see a new featured screen. At the bottom, it shows you some featured characters and bundles, and what I really like is that it tells you right away if you own them or not. That's pretty cool. They've also included a weekly free gift that you can claim. I mean, who doesn't love that? Across the top, they advertise some featured yet older character cosmetics. Since Behaviour gave everyone a free 6,000 Auric cells to play around with, and I don't already own it, let's take a look at the Minotaur Oni skin. This brings me to Oni's specific collection, and the first thing that I noticed was that on the right side of the screen, there's a Play Mori button. No more needing to go into a match to see a killer's Mori. I think this is a pretty amazing change. I really enjoy that. I went ahead and bought the Minotaur Oni skin, and then I noticed a bundles tab at the top of the screen. It would appear that we'll be able to purchase developer bundles that change weekly. As you can see, or as you're about to see, unfortunately, I wasn't able to purchase any of these bundles as it aired out for me, so they still need to work on that. However, I do think that things like this are pretty cool. Anyway, I do like the new store overhaul. I think it's streamlined and will offer Behaviour better ways to incentivize us players. One last thing to mention is that the Shrine of Secrets has now moved to the character screen. As you'll see, it's now a button on the left side. I do kind of think this is maybe a little bit clunky, but at the same time, I'm not sure that this bothers me. It looks really neat. I like the graphic update that they did to it. Yeah, I don't know that I care where they put this, so this is okay to me. With all that store stuff out of the way, let's turn our focus to the biggest thing I've been waiting for, the Lampkin Lane Haddonfield Rework. According to the PTB notes, Behaviour acknowledges that the map has been difficult for the players to enjoy. I'm sure when they say players, they mean killers. Behaviour states that they made the decision to update it, prioritizing gameplay quality. The length of the street was reduced, so they've added some line-of-sight blockers in the street, which makes sense to me. They have removed any closed houses and also reduced the amount of tiles in the map, while also adding gameplay and blockers on the border tiles. I'm not 100% sure what that last part means, but we're gonna look at it. They've added openings in the main house to improve the navigation and the gameplay, and the park tiles have also been changed. That all sounds good on paper, but if you're as skeptical as me when it comes to one of Behaviour's famous map reworks, you need to see it to believe it. Well, that's what we're about to do. Coming up, pay no mind to how washed up a Huntress player I've become. I'm also trying to survey the map. Alright, looks like it spawned us inside of the park. I mean, well, kind of inside of the park. And yeah, we can already see that it does look a little bit different. There's what looks like a pretty safe pallet loop. Here's a line of sight blocker that they've added because of the shortness of the street, and oh wow, it is definitely shorter. By God, it looks almost like at least half. It's amazing. I actually really enjoy that. We're gonna go ahead and take care of Elodie here. real quick. And then after we get her on a hook, we're going to go ahead and check out one of these houses. Alright, so heading across the street from that hook, we're going to check out this first house. Now, if you recall, there's 2 windows in this house, and wow, that's blocked. So the window in the front is blocked, and now there was a window in the back, which is open. Okay, so at least they closed off one of those windows. And as you can see, that exit gate is much closer to this house now because they've reduced the size of the street. It's not as long as it used to be. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to head into this house over here. I do hear this generator chugging, so I do want to go ahead and kind of take care of this, play the game a little bit, because I don't want the bots to gen rush me before I've had an opportunity to look at this map. Although that house did look like it was unchanged so far. That one that we were just in. We're going to go ahead and take care of Hinato, and then we will go and we will check out another house. So we're actually going to go and head back into this house real quick because I would know that there was somebody else that was working on this generator. And again, I kind of don't want to... I don't want this game to be over with before I've had a chance to look at the map. So, alright, we don't find anybody. So we're gonna head on up, but we do hear somebody. I have no idea where they're going, what they're doing. Bot players are so incredibly unpredictable. So we're just gonna kind of screw around here, and we find Jake. Remember, I'm a watchdog. So, alright, let's hook Jake, and then maybe now we can go and check out another house, like this one here. So this one also had 2 windows, this one here. And then it had one in the back, which is now just an opening. Which is pretty nice. But now, as you can see here, instead of having the window on the back wall from this generator right here, we now have a pallet, which looks to actually be very incredibly unsafe. I'm not even sure why that's there. That's the most unsafe pallet I think I've ever seen. So, I mean, I guess good for killer players. So yeah, but they've also taken the locker from the back side of the house and put it in the front side of the house. So that actually looks quite a lot better to navigate again as a killer player. And I just apparently can't hit Jake to save my life. So yeah, we're gonna do what most killers do here. We're gonna tunnel out Jake, and well, we're not gonna tunnel him out, but we're gonna hook him again, and let's take a look at the main house. So far, the outside doesn't look like it's really changed so much. This window is gone. It's now closed. The vault at the end is still open, which is fine. But that window is closed. Okay, so let's head back into that house and check it out. So far this looks the same. The basement is still there. This area looks really the same. As you can see, there was an opening there. So instead of that window being open up front, we do have an opening in the side of the house. It's not a vault, it's just an opening, which is, again, really, really cool. This vault in the back still exists, which is fine. I fully expect that. And it looks like the little garden shed behind the Myers house is also unchanged, and as you can see, that exit gate's really close to the house, again because they've shortened the street. So we're heading into the park now, and it looks way different to me. There's no more of those long hedges. I see what they mean by the edge map blockers and line of sight things. All you can see, all the hedges seem to be much taller. They've added one kind of difficult loop there with a pallet, but all in all, park seems to be a little bit easier to deal with now. So let's head around. This is another, remember, there are no closed houses anymore, so all these houses are now open. But what's really, really interesting and really cool to me is that, look, we got from literally one end of the map all the way to the other end of the map in no time at all, which was impossible to do before, because the street was so much longer. So with the magic of editing, we're just going to go ahead and show you that I found Jake and hooked Jake and killed Jake. I'm not going to show you how that happened because, again, washed Huntress. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to let this roll for a little bit while you can get an idea of playing the game while I also try to look around the map. We're going to head upstairs. We haven't really looked upstairs yet on this map. And the upstairs pretty much looks the same. You have that drop off there. You have the window there. I don't think that's changed at all. This hasn't changed. This was also a drop. So far that seems, again, it seems incredibly manageable so far. So... kind of want to check upstairs in this house. I don't think we've done that either. Here's a drop-off. This is the same opening, I think, although I think they added an opening. I think this was the only opening that they had before, and they added the other one over there. As you can see, they closed this window off. This window used to be a vault. Survivors would take it all the time that were working on that gen. I believe this is opened up. I don't remember this being open. I think that was also a window vault before. In fact, I know it was. So they got rid of that window vault and instead decided to... they got rid of that window vault and instead made it just an open area, which again, super nice. And I don't know why I'm taking this chase. You can't mind game a bot at this kind of shack. Although I still feel like I can do this, even though I know that bots have wall hacks, so... I don't know, entertain my stupidity for a little bit before I realize that I can't do this, and I'm just going to head off and hopefully look at more of the map. Again, I am so incredibly thrilled. Look at how narrow. Look at how short the street is now. You can actually see in detail what's going on the other side of the street. You can see silhouettes of players on the other side of the street. You couldn't do that before. It was just simply too far away. I'm out of hatchets here. There's no sense in really chasing her. Let's just head back into the house. We need to reload anyway. I'm kind of not, again, if you haven't noticed, I'm really not too worried about winning this game. I'm more interested in just kind of checking out this map. One thing that I've noticed is, did you notice that when the Huntress when she drops from a height, did you notice she kind of holds her axe out in front of her for just a second while she's kind of recovering from that little bit of a stagger? I don't know if they meant to do that or not, but I kind of like that. I think that looks pretty neat. It makes perfect sense, too. I mean, you would probably have some kind of animation like that if you were recovering from a stagger. So, I actually think this Fung is dead. We'll see. By now, we've basically seen the entire map. This little courtyard area seems like it's also been changed. They've removed the pallet loops. They have raised the height of the hedges. But mostly, I don't... It looks basically the same. Again, they got rid of the pallet loop, the two pallet loops, I'm sorry. They got rid of the two pallet loops that were up there. Or that were in the courtyard there. And that's fantastic. Now you can drop from both sides, where I think before you could only drop from the left-hand side of the balcony of this house. So again, that's really cool. I really enjoy how they've managed to open up they got rid of all the closed houses. They've managed to open up all of the open houses considerably. They've closed off at least half of the vaults that existed. They've removed some incredibly safe pallet loops. And I mean, I think this is a W change. I really think that, as anybody that knows me from watching me on my Twitch stream knows immediately that I am always skeptical of Behavior's Map Reworks. I think every map rework that they've done has been not good. Like, I feel like they've made the maps worse. I feel like they've made the maps more Survivor-sided. If I'm being honest with you, I know that there are Survivor mains out there that are gonna balk at that and tell me that I'm crazy, or, you know, we don't need to argue Killer main versus Survivor main, but I do feel like that a lot of these map reworks have catered to the Survivor side of the game, especially Haddonfield. So to see all these changes that they've made with removing some of these vaults, removing some of these crazy safe pallet loops, removing all the closed houses, shortening the length of the street, I really do feel like that they've done an amazing job. I really feel like that this might actually be a balanced map now. We're gonna have to wait and see when this goes to live servers, because I can also see this map potentially being a little bit killer-sided. They might have gone maybe a little too far with removing some of these things. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But all in all, I think these are fantastic changes. As a Killer main, I'm excited to play on the new Haddonfield. As a Survivor main, maybe you're not. Maybe they've kind of overtuned it, or kind of like over-nerfed it, if you will. But again, until we can get it into a live setting and get a look at the numbers of, you know, escape rates and all that, yeah, it has yet to be seen. So, more data to come, I suppose. Alright, so the next thing that I wanted to touch on was the Twins rework. Before I jump into it, I know I'm not going to do it justice as much as someone that normally plays Twins would. I'm not a Twins main, and in fact, I rarely to never play Twins. However, I would like to cover it at least a little bit. I did test out a couple of things in a custom bot game, but I won't be showing that match in its entirety. So let's take a quick look at what has changed regarding the Twins. So Victor's Pounce no longer latches onto healthy survivors. That's brand new. Victor can no longer be kicked after successful pounce attacks which do not latch on to a survivor. So basically, if Victor launches himself at a healthy survivor, which would in turn injure them, instead of latching on to them, they just become injured, and he also becomes immune to being kicked. Victor's Pounce now latches onto survivors when they're put into the dying state. While Victor is attached, the survivor cannot return to the injured state. other survivors can crush Victor during this time to help the dying survivor. Victor automatically returns to Charlotte after 20 seconds. This is actually really interesting, because Victor now latching himself onto survivors in the dying state, and those survivors not being allowed to return to the injured state for as long as Victor is on them, really kind of changes things up for perks like Unbreakable. If Victor's on you, I'm assuming that perks like Unbreakable aren't going to work as long as Victor is on you. Now, again, after 20 seconds, Victor automatically returns to Charlotte. So, unless a survivor crushes Victor within that 20 seconds, you can't get up, which is actually quite interesting. While Victor is attached to a survivor or holding a survivor in a locker, Charlotte gains a 10% haste effect. This bonus is lost when hitting a survivor. That's brand new. That's actually crazy. That's pretty good. Considering that Victor could possibly be latched onto a survivor in the dying state for a total of 20 seconds, you could have Charlotte walking around the map with a 10% haste effect for a total of 20 seconds. That's kind of nutty. And kind of neat at the same time. The visual terror radius accessibility setting will now include Victor's grunts. That's new, and that's, I think, very important. Because for people that are not hearing impaired, obviously we can hear Victor's grunts, but if you are hearing impaired, previously you were kind of screwed. That's always never a good idea. That's not cool at all. Victor will now glow red whenever he is vulnerable to being crushed, and white when he's not vulnerable to being crushed. That's brand new. So, for example, when Victor pounces onto a healthy survivor, putting them into the injured state, Victor will glow white, meaning he is invulnerable to being crushed. There's nothing that anybody can do. On a missed pounce, he will glow red, denoting that he can be crushed. He will also glow red when he's on a survivor in the dying state, denoting that he can also be crushed at that point as well. They've added the ability to recall Victor at any point while he's unbound. That's brand new. That's great. I feel like that's really good, because this now removes the ability for survivors to hold Victor hostage for a period of time that was previously pretty irritating. So I do think that that's a great change. They've added the ability to switch between Victor and Charlotte near a hooked survivor at a slower rate. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I don't know that I really have an opinion about that, considering that we have like killers like Singularity, for example, to where if Singularity is, say, checking out pod cameras, and he's near a hook survivor, he comes out of that animation slower. So this just kind of also makes sense to me. They've added a new icon to represent the moment when Victor can be recalled. That's pretty cool. Victor no longer reveals survivors with killer instinct while he's latched on, which is fine to me, because if he's latched on to a survivor, that means the survivor's in the dying state, and if there's another survivor that's trying to pick him up or something like that, then they're not going to be revealed. And I think that that's a really good change, because it doesn't tell Charlotte that, hey, somebody's trying to pick up this survivor. Not only can you go there and stop that from happening, but you have a new target to go after now. So I think that's really good. Decrease the time it takes to switch back to Charlotte to 1.5 seconds. It was previously 3 seconds. This is huge. It doesn't seem like a lot. 3 seconds doesn't seem like a long time. Decrease by 1.5 seconds doesn't seem like a long time. But you'll even notice when you see it in game. It is such an incredible difference. It is such a fantastic quality of life change. That 3-second animation when you switched between Charlotte and Victor was so painful. Painful enough to honestly make somebody not want to play twins at all. So, very cool. Decrease the time it takes to unbind Victor to 0.75 seconds. It was 1 second. That's really cool. I like that idea too. I didn't understand why it always took so long to unbind Victor. I felt it should have been more instant. But so that's pretty neat. There's also an add-on that makes that even faster, which you'll see. Decrease the time it takes to charge Victor's pounce to 0.85 seconds. It was 1 second. That's fine. I think that change you'll see it'll probably be maybe a little bit negligible. If I was maybe more of a twins player, I might think differently, but in my unprofessional opinion, that seems a little bit negligible to me. They've also increased the cooldown for Victor to come back after being crushed to 10 seconds. It was 6. This is enormous. This is such a great change for how impactful this killer was. It always used to seem that Charlotte could launch Victor out. It seemed like she could just constantly send him out. But it was a 6-second delay after being crushed. This being now changed to 10 seconds now makes this more of the Charlotte and Victor show, as opposed to just the Victor show. And you're going to see more of that inside of the gameplay, because so far when you've gone against twins players, what twins players tend to want to do is really just make this the Victor show, where they go on and they try to get everybody injured as best as they can, and then they just launch out Victor, and then Victor goes in and he just downs the first player, and then moves on to the next player, slugging the first one, downs the second one. It was very common for twins players to win matches by slugging all 4 survivors. And with all of these changes that we've seen, that we've just outlined, that's not a thing anymore. Does it make her more of a kind of a hit and run type of killer in the beginning? Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, I'll take a hit and run killer more so than a killer that leaves me sitting on the floor for 5 minutes. No thanks. So I really do feel like the changes that they've outlined are pretty good. We're going to see them in action. But first, let's take a look at a few of the add-on changes that they've put forth. So, first off, we have Tiny Fingernail. Tiny Fingernail now decreases Victor's unbind time by 33%. It was 50%. This makes total sense to me, considering that they decreased the time it takes to unbind Victor to 0.75 seconds where it was 1 second. So it kind of really only makes sense to me that they also changed the add-on so the unbind time is less. Now we have Toy Sword. Toy Sword decreases the pounce charge time by 10% where it was 20. Once again, they changed the default pounce charge time to 0.85 seconds where it was 1 second. So again, it makes sense that they changed the add-on. I'm fine with all this stuff. In fact, as you'll see in the match that I play, I'm using Tiny Fingernail. Victor's unbind time seems so instant to me that, I mean, it just feels good. It just feels good. I think it's a good change. I think it's totally fine. Rusted Needle. Pounce attacks inflict hemorrhage until healed. I'm not one to use add-ons that inflict hemorrhage or mangled, that kind of thing. So this one's kind of lost on me. I would probably never use it. I don't know many people that would probably use it, so I mean, it is what it is. I get that it has a place in the game, but you know, kind of not for me. It's just a way for Victor to inflict hemorrhage, where previously that would have had to have been done by Charlotte, obviously, with like Sloppy Butcher, for example. Sewer Sludge now decreases a survivor's crawl speed by 25% when Victor is attached to them. This is actually kind of neat. A lot of times when a survivor is put into the dying state, their first instinct is to crawl to a pallet. Keep in mind that when Victor attaches himself to somebody and puts them in the dying state, Charlotte gets a 10% haste buff. which means that she can get to that dying state survivor even faster. Now, if that dying state survivor has a slower crawl speed by 25%, this could potentially stop people from getting to those pallets for a more safe pickup. I think that's interesting. I don't know if it's going to see a lot of gameplay, but I do think that it's actually pretty interesting. Silencing Cloth now triggers when Victor is crushed. If you're not familiar with what Silencing Cloth does, Silencing Cloth grants Charlotte the undetectable status for 20 seconds after she awakens from the dormant state. So now, not only will that add-on do that, but now it will also trigger when Victor is crushed. That's kind of neat. So if you have Victor maybe patrolling something, like let's say you have Victor near a tile where a generator to be working, being worked on, and the survivors hear Victor grunting, and they go and they kick him. Well, Charlotte's going to gain that undetectable status because Victor's crushed, and she's going to be able to get to where that is while she's undetectable. Like, I can see Silencing Cloth actually being really, really good now. I mean, I think it was a decent add-on before. I think it's pretty good now. I think it's really good now. Weighty Rattle. Pounce attacks inflict broken for 60 seconds. Again, I don't typically use add-ons that inflict status effects like this, but I can definitely see a place for add-ons such as this, for sure. Iridescent Pendant. Each time Victor injures a survivor with a pounce attack, increase Victor and Charlotte's movement speed by 2%. This can only reach a maximum of 8%. This effect is lost when putting a survivor in the dying state. This is kind of nutty. So if you're playing like a hit and run type of style with Victor, every time that you go and you injure a survivor, as Victor, you're getting a 2% movement increase. That's pretty good. And now let's say for some reason you switch over to Charlotte, and let's say you do this to all 4 survivors. Do you have an 8% speed increase? Now let's say you switch over to Charlotte. Charlotte's got an 8% increase. That's kind of neat. I don't know how much value you're going to see out of it, but I have a feeling like this could be really good. Like, I don't think you're going to see the 8% a whole lot, which is kind of what's making me think that maybe this doesn't really matter. But who knows? I do use it in the game that you're about to see. I don't know that I don't think that I ever really see its full potential. But let me know what you guys think. So anyway, without further ado, we've gone through the changes to twins. We've gone through their add-on changes. Let's go ahead and jump into a match. Once again, I'm just using your basic meta type of perks for this game. I think I used Barbecue, Surge, Pain Res, and I think I used Agitation or something like that. And again, I used the Iridescent Pendant and the Tiny Fingernail. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at some snippets of a match and get an idea of how the twins play now. Alright, here we are at Groaning Storehouse. I'm just going to try to center myself in the middle of the map here and unbind Victor. Look at how fast he comes out. That's the new default unbind speed, along with Tiny Fingernail. Now you're going to notice here when I get this hit on Hinato, notice how he's glowing white. That means he can't be kicked. Now that we put him in the dying state, Victor is latched onto Hinato. Another thing that I meant to bring up that's really nice about this is, like, if you're trying to look for somebody that's slugged on the ground, you can now hear them. You can now hear Victor's grunts. So we're going to pick up Hinato. Victor's going to come right back to us, which is going to begin the 10-second cooldown once we hook Hinato. And off we go. Found Jake. We're gonna miss Jake because we're bad, and he's gonna kick us in the face. Comes right back, and now the 10-second cooldown starts. And I think that this is huge. It's almost double the amount of time that it takes to send Victor out again, and I really do think that this is a game changer. It makes twins feel less oppressive, in my opinion. We're gonna go after the phone. Gonna get the hit on her. Notice glowing white again, so he's invulnerable to being crushed. We're gonna miss because we're not Lynxy and get kicked in the face yet again. But since he was crushed, notice I have notice on the right hand side of the screen I do have the haste because he was crushed. So I'm schmovin'. Charlotte is now schmovin' through the map. But at least you're able to see like elements of the changes that have been made. Meaning how Victor now, how he unbinds faster. So okay, see, now we're gonna switch. Look at how fast that switch is. Like, we're in the game already. It's that quick 1.5 second change of control, which we didn't see before. So we're gonna switch back because we hear somebody, but they're bots, so they know exactly where we are. Check the locker. So let's hide him again and see what happens. Again, that fast change. That just feels so good. Like, I know it sounds silly, that 1.5 seconds seems really silly, but boy, does that, it just feels good. And again, because Victor was crushed, we now have that haste. Getting gen rushed. Get the hit on her. Glowing white can't be kicked. We miss, but we're far enough away, so she's not going to be able to kick us. Now, if you see, you can see Victor's white aura, and then it disappears. It looks like we get Victor's white aura for maybe, I'm going to guess about 2.5 seconds, which is kind of nice. So at least if you get turned around, which you so often do, switching between Charlotte and Victor is sent out and covers so much distance, a lot of times you really kind of get turned around as to where both people are on the map, both killers are on the map. So it's kind of nice to see him for like a couple of seconds there, to be able to go and pick up the survivor you put in the dying state. This is pretty good. So we see Victor's white aura, so we know that we're exactly where we downed Jake. And luckily we have our haste, so we're going to go after the Elodie here, who is injured. We lose our haste because we did put another survivor in the dying state, so we automatically lose the haste. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pick up Jake and get him on a hook.
Yeah.
So now the only thing that I'm questioning here is I don't know if I'm benefiting from the iridescent pendant add-on. I don't recall seeing like a stacks counter, if you will, on the pendant. We'll find out, because I think I get this. I don't, but he can't kick me. He tries. Yeah. Okay, so I get the injure. Yeah, I don't see a stacks counter, but I should be moving 2% faster. But I don't see anything that indicates that. I don't see a status indication. Okay, I see the status indication here. So I have to admit, I'm kind of confused as to how the iridescent pendant works. I don't know if it's, I can't even say that it's working properly. I don't really have a frame of reference, if I'm being completely honest. But anyway, I think that this is a fantastic rework for the twins. Like, the unbind on Victor feels super good. Him no longer being, or the twins really no longer being able to just be a slug everybody killer. At least easily and by default, I think is fantastic. I think that's just a W rework right there, just right there. I love what they did. I love what they did. I'm actually interested now in maybe playing more twins matches. The switching in between Charlotte and Victor felt really, really good. So yeah, I really did enjoy that match. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to go over a few perks that also made some changes, just super quick. Alright, we're going to be looking at Ultimate Weapon, Adrenaline, and Decisive Strike. Ultimate Weapon now activates for 15 seconds, it was 30. It now reveals Survivor auras for 3 seconds, instead of causing them to scream, and the cooldown has been increased to 60 seconds from 30 seconds. Honestly, I think this is fine. It lasted for too long in the beginning, and it came back to you too quickly. So I think those adjustments are just fine. I'm personally glad that it's now an aura read perk instead of a screaming perk, because I would much rather have gamers run Distortion than Calm Spirit, because Calm Spirit is creepy. Like, just stop it. You know who you are. Adrenaline, burst of speed now lasts 3 seconds. It was 5 seconds. No longer activates if you're hooked or carried when the gates are powered, and it no longer causes you to wake up and face in the nightmare. Well, first of all, I didn't even know about the whole Freddy part, so that's pretty cool. Burst of speed, I mean, okay. I guess that's okay, that's fine. It does kind of suck not being able to come off the hook healed, but I mean, I think we're all gonna live with it. But my point is like, who is asking for this? Why did this even need a mock-up? Or a fix? Why did this need to be changed? This is a perk that doesn't even, it's a dead perk unless you finish all 5 gens. Until all 5 generators are finished, you're basically running 3 perks in your match. And, half the time that this does activate, you're already healed. So you just get a small little sprint burst? I just don't know who asked for this. I feel like this is a stupid... and I'm a killer main. I feel like this is just silly. And then finally, Decisive Strike. Increase the stun duration to 5 seconds, it was 3, so they're basically reverting this back. And I guess they added a new stabbing animation, which I wasn't able to get an example of, but that's okay. I'm sure that somebody has got it out there, or you're going to see it soon enough for yourself. I'm personally glad this went back to 5 seconds, simply because I am really tired of the tunneling meta out there, and if this happens to even squash it just a little bit, I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that. If those extra 2 seconds are what you need to get to another tile stack, or get to the main building, or whatever the case may be, to get out of the exit gate, or whatever. Well, it wouldn't be the exit gate because it deactivates in the end game. But anyway, if those extra 2 seconds give you an opportunity to get somewhere, then great. Maybe killers will stop tunneling. It's just that simple. We need to do more. We need to do more to prevent idiot players from playing like idiots. It's not fun for anybody that's in the game, except for them. And I'm not even sure they consider it fun, more as just malicious. But anyway, that's going to be it for me, gamers. I hope you enjoyed my little wrap-up of the mid-chapter PTB, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.